Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to dig into the papers now. We're joined by Bridget Jogbe Nuku, of course, one-time presidential candidate for the PPP, and one who shares her thoughts freely on matters of socio-economic concern and national life. Bridget, a very good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. It's been a while. How have you been?
Fine, thank you. And you?
Great,
I
great
was
here.
away for a bit, but I'm back.
Great.
Thank you for having.
Usually, when I start off the conversation with you in the news review, I like to focus on the economy because you're a business person. I noticed how recently the owner of FC Cosmetics spoke about how she had lost, 80% of her business, basically. She had had to shut down some branches, let go of staff, about 70% of them, and all of that on the back of the economic downturn. How has your business fared?
Well, my business is based on farm produce. It's agribusiness. So, yes, what has happened is prices have shot up incredibly. Um, because I bring the produce from the Volta region or the products from the Volta region and it's packaged here. I mean, transport costs have risen astronomically, and that by itself has affected the price. Apart from that, the product itself has seasons, and it's out of season right now, so you get it in little bits, in drips and drops, as I say, because it's oil. And because of it's not in season, the current price of our locally produced palm oil is almost matching the price of the imported, which is not a good thing. It's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah.
Well, and I suppose that has impacted your pricing as well.
Of course. I mean, I think one of the times that I was on here with you and you were talking about prices, I said that I was underpricing myself, which I was, because I was trying to keep it within the means of everybody who wanted to use Jumi palm oil. But I can't anymore. I'll be running a benevolent society or, a charity if I did that. I'd be running into losses all the time. So I've got to make my prices match or at least cover my cost and then with a little margin. And my prices will definitely have to go up.
It is what it is, I guess. Reality kicking in.
It is. Thankfully, all my customers understand that it's the lay of the land. That's the way it is. And that's the way it's going to have to be.
That's the way it's going to have to be. Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. We'll start from there. And NADMO goes to aid of Wager flood victims. I'm sure you've heard and pictured here. You would see some people in canoes and all of that. You would think it was a river of sorts, but we're talking about our brothers and sisters in the Wager area, of course, Tetegu, Oblogo, English Yamanfro, all those places, many of them affected. We'll bring you some details of that. Giving up on Galamsey fight not option, that's according to Mr. President. It appears some people say we're simply not doing enough, especially in respect of those who may be walking the corridors of power and how they themselves are seen to be dabbling in Galamsey. Foremost among them, Akonta mining, which some say is tied. In fact, it has been established to be tied to the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP, Chairman Wuntumi. Some are waiting to see whether the president will be able to crack the whip as he says all of this. But there's also that countdown to the Mondial that is also there. Let's quickly get into those two stories. So the Galamsey one first. On a busy day in Kumasi yesterday, while seeking to court support for the fight against illegal mining, aka Galamsey, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo declared that giving up the fight against the menace was not an option. Consequently, he appealed to traditional leaders to join hands with him to protect the environment and warned that any of his appointees found to be involved in Galamsey would not be spared. The president said this in separate meetings with the National House of Chiefs and DCs of 90 districts in 5 regions where illegal mining is active. The president first met with the members of the NHC and made one major request, quote, seek your assistance to take partisan political interest out of the fight against Galamsey. He said 80% of the land in the country continued to be under the authority of chiefs, with the remaining 20% held in trust by the president. I found this rather interesting that, 80% of the land in the country continues to be under the authority of the chiefs, with the remaining 20% held in trust by the president, because the Constitution talks about the fact that it is to be held in trust by the president. It doesn't talk about traditional rulers. In any case, the traditional rulers, like we've heard the Asantehene in recent times say, have washed their hands of any blame. They say political leadership is to blame. I don't know what you make of all of this, Bridget.
Well, I found it a bit ironic, I must say, because indeed, as you have said, the chiefs hold the land in trust. But if, for example, I go and buy land, who gives the land title? I don't get a land title from a chief.
Right.
When people have decided to go and mine in a certain area and apply for a certificate or a license to mine, the license doesn't come from a chief. It comes from the Minerals Commission. And yesterday I read something that Manasseh Azure had written. And it was exactly that. We cannot be blaming the chiefs. And we have in fact found out that this Galamsey issue is actually in the hands of some of the political gurus. Now, I think it was CDD that ran a survey or a research on political campaign financing, and found that a lot of the financing was actually coming from illicit, and I must say, Galamsey, illicit finance. It was illicit financing, and a part of it was, yes, from either the Galamsey business or people who were involved in that and could finance the party so that they could take their pound of flesh back. My party is not involved in that. I must let me say the Progressive People's Party, no, but that is it. And I don't think that we should play ostrich and bury our heads in the sand. This Galamsey menace is killing Ghanaians, literally, practically, literally, it's killing Ghanaians, and we know this, and we cannot start shifting blame. I mean, I keep saying, and I say on social media all the time, let's not shift blame. Let's take responsibility. It's easy to say, oh, it's not me, it's that person, or it's not me, it's this other person. But if you're in charge, and you must take responsibility. I'll tell you what, I was thinking about this program this morning, and I was saying, the president says he's made a promise to God to build him a cathedral. But on your blind side, if it is on his blind side, God's land, God's earth is being desecrated, is being destroyed, is being distracted by people who are answerable to you. I mean, you cannot be building an edifice to the benefits of what or who, and then the basic creation that is for the use of humanity, earth, water, trees. You are presiding over the destruction of these things to the detriment of the same humanity. It can't be. So let's not turn a blind eye or say you want evidence. You cannot be looking for evidence. The evidence is right there. We see it. We cannot say if we don't admit it, then it doesn't exist. It exists. And everybody can see it. And we can't start to blame the chiefs right now. Yes, the chiefs might be selling some of the lands to some people, but at the end of the day, we give licenses, we give certificates. And where does it come from? It comes from government. So, no, you can't blame the chiefs.
And I see that Manasseh tweet you were referencing. He talks about the fact that all of that was a joke of a meeting. And there are many who think along those lines.
I'd say, there's a lot of window dressing. There's a lot of show on the surface, PR. And all that yesterday I was thinking, I said the president is, well, let me just hold my words there. But when you say something is for show, it's never, it's only skin deep. It's only superficial. We're only doing things to cover up and not going deep enough to address the issue. I mean, going to say this and shifting blame does not solve the issue. The galamsey is still going on, and people are dying. You know. Anyway,
I wish we could put this. It's on our Facebook, JoyNews Facebook, page. And the other day, Erastus Asaridonko, my colleague, who recently put together a documentary, Destruction for Gold, he brought samples of various water bodies, rivers in our country. I don't know whether you've seen that. I would have wanted us to maybe put it on the screen this morning. We'll try to get it. It broke my heart. Before that, my own colleague, Kafui Day, had also gone to, I think, the Pra River, and it looked like carrot juice. I actually joked about it, that it looked like carrot juice.
Yes,
now, you look at the different samples,
and
and it breaks my heart. Now, experts have said that it will take as long as 100 years. That is, if galamsey were to stop today, and we didn't touch the water bodies, it would take about 100 years, 10 decades, before they can be restored to anything close to what they were before we started polluting them. And yet the pollution is not stopping. It is just heartbreaking. But, and like you say, for me, the political will, the power of the state is vested in the president. The land, the natural resources of our country are vested in him to do something about, to protect, like you said. And I don't know whether that protection is happening. And even worse, we see people in the party doing all of this.
It's quite disappointing to I mean, I had hoped that he would have actually taken responsibility and said, I'm going to deal with it. He said it before. But now that you are saying it's you, the chiefs, I'm thinking, where do we start from? It means that we're not about to do anything about this situation. And you see, I keep saying that profit is not everything. There's got to be humanity. Think about the human beings first. But no, all we want is profits and political expediency. We do not want to think about the common Ghanaian. Recently, I came up with a slogan. I said, my favorite slogan is this: to be Ghanaian, you must suffer. And that's what it seems like it was going on everywhere. Ghanaians are suffering. And no, we just need to either break the eight or make lots of money. We can't continue like this. Ghanaians are suffering.
Well, quite a situation there. But we'll do the best we can under the circumstances. Let's also look at.
I think that the media should continue to, hammer on this issue of galamsey. We, as well as everybody. I was listening to one of your ads before you came.
Right.
And I heard it was a lady's voice who said, it seems like whilst everything is going wrong. And I said, what is everything is going wrong? Say it as it is. Mention it by name and, deal with it.
And indeed, we have to. But look, the fight, from our point, I don't know about the other, media houses, but if you follow the trajectory of what we've been doing over time, you would know that we are committed to this and we will continue on this trajectory till something massive happens. But let's get into that other story. NADMO goes to aid of Wager flood victims. That story is on page 20 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. So the National Disaster Management Organization has established that about 2,000 people have been affected directly by the flooding at Wager. Communities close to the Wager Dam, including Wager Oblogo and Tetegu, have been submerged by loads of water after the Ghana Water Company Limited opened the 5 spill gates. So initially we thought 4, but the 5 spill gates of the dam to spill water to save it from collapse. The Wager Gbawe director of NADMO, Emmanuel Edubuahin, who accompanied the Director General of NADMO, Nanajaman Prempeh, and a team from the organization disclosed this to the Daily Graphic yesterday. It was during a tour of the flooded areas to assess the extent of flooding, which was rising by the hour because of continuous spillage. He said the NADMO team was still conducting an assessment to determine the actual number of people displaced by the flood. So, just to break it down, We've been told that I think the capacity of the Wager Dam is 48 feet and that it had got to about 49.5, 49.8 feet. And so spillage had to happen. We've heard different thoughts about the spillage, whether the people were notified ahead of time. Some say there was no notification. The PRO of the Ghana Water Company Limited says there was ample notification. But the fact still remains that this has caused a lot of destruction to property. Cars were swept away by, the flood. Houses have been basically covered in water. Property has been lost. People are stranded. They can't enter their homes. NADMO, I'm sorry to say, as usual, has been slow. I don't know what your take is.
You see, I don't know why we create the problem before the NADMO steps in. We knew that this was going to happen. We knew, I understand from what I hear with the interviews I've heard of the victims, that they were informed in April. I mean, how long ago is April? 6 months? And nothing happens. So they get back to their usual lives. They didn't move. And if they had moved in April, would they have been, are you saying then that they should evacuate and not live there anymore? Because 6 months is a long time. And if they were told, and then in October or September, end of September, you're not telling, you don't give another warning and just go and open the spill gates, people's lives will be in destruction. And once again, let's do things with people in mind, with Ghanaians in mind. Let's not do things because it must be done. This is the way we do it. This is our work, and this is the way we are just going to perform our work to the best of our ability, without the consideration of Ghanaians, people who are struggling to live, to make ends meet. And then now everything is destroyed. Yesterday, I heard someone on another station saying he's an architect, his laptop is gone, all the work he's printed is gone. I mean, where is he going to start from? You see, and if you say you inform them, why then are so many people saying we were not informed? So maybe somebody didn't do their work well. Whoever was supposed to go and inform them did not do their work well. I mean, what NADMO is going to do right now, it's pacification. It's nothing. You're only just going to, placate them there. Sorry, it's happened. Take this and get on with life. Whereas people's livelihoods are destroyed. So sometimes we must, or most times, you must put the average Ghanaian in mind first. How are they going to do? How are they going to manage? And deal with that well. If it's resettling them, if it's saying move or lift your things up one level or other, well, this is what we're going to do, and we're afraid your place is going to get flooded. Yes, there was a time all those residents were moved from there, were asked to move. We all know the issue with land and how all kinds of land, pieces of land are being sold, and people are buying them with the hope that they'll be safe. But when they have settled, what can we do? This is when we must come in and say, listen, we have to spill this water, and as long as we're going to do it, your homes are going to get flooded. Give them ample time, not one warning. Give them warning upon warning upon warning. And if after that something happens, then they are to blame. But if you warn them in April and then come and take the action in September, there's a problem. I can't hear you. I can't hear.
All right, so try to
Oh,
remedy that, Bridget. We'll try to remedy that situation. All right, can you hear me now, Bridget?
I can hear you now,
Great.
yes.
let me go over the story. So, compensate customers over system failure. PURC orders the ECG. And the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has ordered the Electricity Company of Ghana to pay compensation to affected customers in the recent failure in the ECG prepayment vending system. By the order, all categories of customers, residential, non-residential, commercial, lifeline, are to be compensated in the form of one-time electricity credit within the time frame of October 1st to October the 7th, that is tomorrow, 2022, as the PURC Act states. A statement signed by the Executive Secretary of the Commission, Dr. Ishmael Aka, ordered that each affected customer be compensated for the loss suffered as a show of responsive customer service and in compliance with the law. Were you affected by this situation, especially as you have a business and, you have a home? I don't know whether you were personally affected. Did you hear stories of people, and what do you think, what do you make of this directive for compensation?
I was affected, as we say. I was. I watched my credits, the credits left on my meter dwindle until the lights went off. It was almost as if I was doing a countdown to the launch of a NASA. What do you call those things? You know,
is it a space
spaceship to NASA?
Right.
543210. And I had power. I did not have power overnight. And when the credits came, when the system came back on Friday morning, you know, some of us are lucky. And when people say yes, it's who you know, it's who you know. I went to the ECG, and I'll be honest, I went to the ECG district office, and I happened to be put in touch with someone who knew someone. And therefore, I didn't have to join the 3 long queues that were there, plus the ones that were sitting on chairs and shifting from chair to chair inside the yard, and then those who were shifting from chair to chair inside the building. There were 2 security men, strong men, making the situation worse by, you know, if you try to go through the gates, they close it and push you out and all that. And I thought, this is not right. You put us in this situation. You cannot treat us like this. Then again, the Ghanaian, right? In Ghana, to be Ghanaian, you must suffer. So this is the suffering we're going through. Thank you, ECG. Indeed, ECG has to compensate us, but how is that going to happen? They are saying one-time payments, I heard you read, between the 1st and the 7th. I've already bought my credit. So are they going to give me double that? How much? And all that. So yes, we've been affected badly. ECG is not telling us exactly what happened. There are stories that there was a hack. The MD says, I don't know if there was a hack. I'm not going to say if there was a hack or not. Nobody is telling us anything. Oh, no problem. We are getting our power back. There are people who have had to go and line up at dawn so that, you know, they can get it before end of day and all that. There are people who say there are pots of food that they would have lasted them a couple of weeks have all gone bad, you know. So it's affected most of us. There's somebody, my printer who does my labels. If you ask how it's affected my business, I couldn't get my label for a few days. Now, I think that ECG, yes, must compensate us, but they are also losing a lot. And I'm not making excuses for them. I don't want to say it serves them right, but they're going to lose a lot of money because a lot of us have bypassed the system. A lot of people have done direct connection, bypass the meter, so they can have power to work. And they say, and I believe them, that they will go back and have their meter restored, and they'll pay what they've consumed, which is what they were asking ECG to do, and they ought to have done. A lot of these connections are being done on the blind side of ECG. So how are you going to know who has done a direct connection and is ever going to come back onto the metering system? So they're going to lose that way. But also, we need to be compensated for the hours lost. People who run factories and companies that use machinery, and they couldn't use their machinery for a few days All those people need to be compensated.
Well, let's just look at this on the back page. 2022 World Cup driving Qatar sports dreams. And it's interesting, you may not be a big fan of sports, but how much it has cost.
Who told you so? Who told you so?
That's why I said may. But let's look at how much the World Cup in Qatar is costing. It's the most expensive ever. The one in the United States cost $500 million. The one in France, $2.3 billion. The one in South Korea and Japan, $7 billion. The one in Germany, $4.3 billion. South Africa, $3.6 billion. Brazil, $15 billion. Russia, $11.6 billion. In Qatar, it's going to cost a whopping $220 billion. That's how much has been invested in there just to get this latest Mundial off. And while I'm a big fan of football, I'm asking myself, in a year like this, a typical annus horribilis, that typical crazy year where everything goes wrong and people are hungry across the globe and all of that, I don't know. Maybe a very quick take on that so we move on to the Ghanaian Times.
It's ego, isn't it? And this is where my feminist thing comes in. It's a man thing.
It is?
Well, it's FIFA men's football, right?
It is.
Here we
women
go
play
spending,
football too.
Yes. Do we spend 200 million on the FIFA women's? Do we even spend?
Definitely spending on women's championships, even in UEFA and others, are far lower. That I know.
But it's you see, this is it. What are we trying to prove in a year like this when the whole world is suffering? Is this where FIFA World Cup unifies everybody?
Right.
Well, one of my workers was telling me yesterday, "Oh, madam, the World Cup starts when was it next week?" And I said, "Yes, a lot of work is going to come to a standstill. It unifies the whole world. We all stop to watch." I remember it wasn't when Ghana was rising with Samoajan. Unfortunately, I have to make.
So 2006, 2010, 2014. I think it's 2010 when we in South Africa that we nearly made it to the semis, and then the
whole African world. Africans in the diaspora were supporting Ghana. It's a unifier. It's sports in any way. Sports is a language, whichever sports.
Right.
I'm a big tennis fan, and if I take a tennis racket and go to Ukraine, I'll make friends. So it's a good thing. It's good weapon, but must we put so much money behind it? Would it not work if we used less? And like you said, in a year like this, I think it's a matter of pride for Qatar, and they can afford it, yes.
Right.
But we must also think about the humanity.
Well, I just want us to take a sneak peek, just to go back briefly. The other stories are some of those we've done already, but I want you, Bridget, and the rest of you watching us to take a look at what Erastus Asaridonko put together for us. Just some samples of our water bodies. Just take a look at that.
Yes.
So the Amoya Stream, River Bia, Tano River, Nui, Totoa Stream, River Bonsa, Afu Stream, the Ofin, and I think the Ankobra. Look at them. And look at a clean bottle of water to your left, and look at our water bodies and what they become. So that is what we have to grapple with, Ghana for. Bridget, I'm sure you took a look.
Yes, I can see them, and it's disheartening. It's disheartening. You can't do this to creation, and you can't do this to human beings. You're not allowed to. And I hope that the people involved in the illegal mining, maybe they seem to think it's only in the area where they are. They should be taken downstream so they see what's going on all the way and how it's affecting lives. I think some of these people, really, those working practically on these in these illegal mines, seem to think it's only in that little place where they are. Don't we think that way? And my whole world is just where I am. If they're taken downstream and shown how it's affecting lives. And indeed, the medical conditions that people are developing due to their activities. It's not, we've become so wealth and money conscious. It's all about money and how much I can make. And it doesn't matter how it affects the other person. Right. It's very disheartening.
It is, Bridget. It is. Let's just wrap. So, again, the Ghanaian Times captures it. Fight against illegal mining. We won't protect anyone involved in Galamsey. The president has been warning, but you've seen the water bodies and the way they look. Government increases cocoa producer price by 21%, and minority urges government to consider alternative view on economic situation. I'll get to that shortly. There's the Business Finder. Cocoa producer price is up by 21%, and thieves impede Tema Akosombo gas pipeline project. But the Daily Guide, Ghana's debt to GDP to hit 104.6%. So here's what it is. We have just about a minute to go, Bridget. But here it is. Our debt to GDP is set to hit 104.6% by close of year. The World Bank has blamed the Bank of Ghana, the central bank, for failing to address the monetary policy or the interest rate, hiking it early to stabilize our currency. Right now, the CD has depreciated by 60%. Consider last year, and we had lost about 2% around the same time. So you see the difference in there. And it's the worst performing currency currently on the continent. And guess what? When it comes to our woes, when it comes to debt to GDP, look at the countries we're rubbing shoulders with. Eritrea, Sudan, Cape Verde, Mozambique. So it paints a picture, doesn't it? Quick reflections in less than a minute and we're gone.
Well, I would have thought that this government would be the best at managing our economy. For us to be in debt to the point where our debt to GDP is 106, did you say 0.4%?
104.6.
How are we paying our day-to-day expenses? I don't know what to say. It's disappointing. The economy has been completely mismanaged. They are blaming the Bank of Ghana. Yes, the Ministry of Finance must be blamed as well. But it's not the blame. You see, I don't believe in just laying blame. Somebody must be responsible and do something about it. What is being done about it? I mean, they say to us that, it's the pandemic, it's Ukraine, Russia. We are not the only ones in the world.
Right.
I was out of the country, and of course I could see, they kept saying the US is in recession. I know what is happening in the UK. But our debt levels, debt to GDP, cannot be blamed on Ukraine or on the pandemic. Indeed, if it's the pandemic, we did have a lot of relief from the IMF and the World Bank. What did we do with it?
Well,
it's obviously mismanagement. There's no two ways about it. It's been, the economy has been mismanaged, and those who have mismanaged it, if they say they had the people or they had the men to run this country and to run the economy, they'd better take responsibility and work their way back into putting us on the right footing.
Bridget Jokbenuku, so we're around 80+% now, but at the end of the year, we'll hit the 104.6% that the World Bank is projecting. But we're grateful that you took the time to join us, Bridget. Interesting conversation, as always. Do have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
And that's how we wrap the AM News Review. But up next, we'll be telling you a lot in the world of sports. And yesterday, it was Champions League action once more. Erling Haaland has taken his goal tally to an incredible 19. Want to find out more? Stay with us. We'll be back with sports.